All right. Good evening and welcome back to the second series for our college and career readiness for our seniors and juniors of high school. My name is Latoya Sloan-McGraw, and I want to welcome you to the Tyrone Mayer Summer Academy. And here today to help present on the topic of college and career readiness is once again our special guest, Miss Benita Bell. All right, just to read you a little bit, to let you know a little bit about Miss Bell. Ms. Bell has served at Western Hills High School as a college and career and military readiness coach for 5 years. She is a graduate of Sam Houston State University with a BS in criminal justice and is a first generational graduate for her family. She is a proud product of Fort Worth ISD and has worked in the district since 2009. As a CCMR coach, Mrs. Bell provides mentoring, scholarship opportunities, social etiquette, understanding educational requirements, and overall reassurance of every student that they can create their own college and career pathway. She is also the founder of Lime Resources, a resource network that provides professional development and training for students, parents, and educators to ensure the transition of students from high school to the post-secondary society. Once again, help me welcome Miss Benita Bell.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am
Parents,
going to share my screen while you're talking.
okay. So parents, if you have a junior or senior you want to tune into this, we're going to share information today. Our topic is going to be preparing to get accepted into college. So with that being said, we're going to look at the testing requirements from the SAT, ACT, and TSI. Um, our goal is to provide what are the differences between the exams and are they required. We'll also go over some of the things that you should be doing with your students now. Although we're in the pandemic, schools are still having requirements for students in order to be accepted in the school. So we are aware of some updates that have been on the news, but we also want you to understand they're giving you an overall, but they're not giving you the in-depth information on those changes. So with no further ado, we're going to go into our PowerPoint and get this started.
You have to let me share. You have to give me
Okay.
permission to share.
All right, let me do that. Sorry about that. You got it?
Let's see. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I know it's going to start us from the beginning, so I'm just going to click, click, click. All right.
All right.
Okay, so 3 important tests for college. So you have your SAT, your ACT, and your TSI. To get updates about the SAT, you're going to use collegeboard.org. And for updates about the ACT, it's act.org. And then for the TSI, that is your college entry test that Texas use. Other states, they may have something different. A lot of them don't require. So you would just, if you're looking for out of state, if you're looking at out of state colleges, then you would just talk to those universities to see if they require the TSI or not. But TSI is generally only Texas.
So let me ask you this. As a parent, so I'm gonna be kind of like your patient for today, so to
Okay.
speak. So I'm gonna ask questions that most parents may have. They're called general questions, and it's just to help clarify some understanding. So
Okay.
one of the things that I ran into with one of my son's friends was that his mom thought that because he had taken the SAT and ACT, that there was no need to take the TSI. Can you please explain what are the differences between SAT and ACT and TSI?
That parent is correct to a certain extent, depending on the student's test scores. So a student can be exempt from the TSI with a certain test score. And usually the schools vary. So depending on what the school requirements are, then that's how you know if your child is exempt or not. So it'd be definitely, like I stated in the last video, it's definitely something you have to be in contact with your college admissions counselors, because they will be able to let you know if your student is exempt from the TSI. So with the SAT, if a student and you know what, I can actually, while I'm talking, I may be able to find like just a random school to see what their qualifications are as far as being exempt from the TSI. But ultimately, usually the schools that, if you score a certain amount on the SAT, the ACT, or your EOC STAR testings, then yes, you can be exempt from the TSI. The TSI is a test to show the colleges where you need to be with your math, reading, and writing classes, your English classes. So let's say if you look at the TSI, math, so say I got maybe a 820 on my SAT, more than likely I'm going to have to take the TSI math test. You're only looking at the kids that receive maybe like a 1300. I would bet money that it's about 1300 and above that they're exempt from taking the TSI. So let's say that I've taken the math TSI test and I received a 345. I'm going to have to take remedial classes in college so that I can get on the college level classes. And so I would always recommend that a student retake the test. The good thing about the TSI, you don't have to take all parts all over again. You only take the part that you need to pass, so that you don't have to take remedial classes. Remedial classes, and Miss Sloan just told me something that I didn't know about Frisco College. You're able to take remedial classes and your class, your actual English class, at the same time at their campus. But there are other campuses you cannot move on to the next level until you finish that remedial class if you don't pass the TSI. So I've listed the requirements that you need to pass the TSI, and just to explain the writing portion of it, if you receive a 4 on your essay, then you have to at least get a 340 on the writing portion of the test. But if you receive a 5 on your essay, then you don't have to worry about passing the writing part. So the better your writing skills, the least you have to make on the writing portion, if that makes sense. So the scores, a 5 is a good number. So you're looking to get a 5 or a 4 or higher, or at least a 5, so that you don't even have to worry about the writing portion. Most kids, I'll be honest, most kids pass the writing portion of the test. It's the math and the reading that a lot of students struggle with. So my suggestion would definitely be going on to Khan Academy and just brushing up on those math skills. With the SAT and ACT, I would recommend a student taking it their sophomore year. If you get free or reduced lunch, it's kind of tricky because you do get 2 free fee waivers for those tests, and that's as of right now. They've been talking about for years stopping the fee waivers because kids get fee waivers and do not show up to test. So we're just going to pray that they don't stop the fee waivers, because it does help kids that are getting free or reduced lunch. But I would recommend taking it sophomore year. You may have to go ahead and pay for it just so that you can see where your child is. That way you'll know where they need to study. If a child does really well in the writing and reading portion of it, you know that your child just needs to focus on that math. So definitely the earlier the better. But if you want to wait until junior year, most school districts are offering the SAT and ACT free of charge for all junior students. So you could wait until junior year, and then you'll know where your child is, so that once they are ready for the fall semester to start applying for colleges, they'll have those grades. But to get a early start, sophomore year would be ideal.
So let's have a quick clarification. So with the TSI, parents need to understand TSI is for college placement. It is not for anything else. It's not for getting the students accepted or anything like that. That is strictly for college placement for their English 1 and college algebra courses or math courses for college. And it does determine if that student needs to take remedial or can they go into the college ready college algebra.
Right. And it is a college placement test, but it is a requirement for admissions.
Admissions for students only in the state of Texas, though, correct?
Yes.
All right. With that being said, other states may have other requirements, but for Texas, the TSI is required. You either can be exempt or you have to take it. Also, with that being said, the SAT and ACT are to help get students accepted into college. All universities and colleges require a SAT, ACT score. Now, previously on the news this week, you and I researched it. We heard that students for next year are not going to be required to take the ACT or SAT for admissions. But how does that test affect them?
It's going to affect them as far as money. A lot of campuses and a lot of scholarships, they use the SAT and ACT scores to determine how much money they're going to offer a student for tuition. So although it's not a requirement anymore for right now, I would definitely suggest that the students take it anyway, because that is where a lot of your money is going to come from. I know just speaking of locally, Texas Wesleyan has a wonderful scholarship opportunity to where they come into the school for us. They look at the kids' GPA, they look at their SAT or ACT scores, and they offer them money just based off of their GPA and their scores. So I would highly suggest go ahead and taking the test just so that you'll have that. And then, like I stated in the last video, universities are looking for people that can add value to their campuses. So if they're seeing that, hey, they weren't required to take this test and they still took the test anyway, that's someone that we want on our campus, and that's someone that we want to put money into. So,
well, I know like Mary Hardin Baylor in Waco, their school, in order to receive a full ride, one of the qualifications is that they have a minimum of a 26 on their ACT or 1800 on their SAT. And so this is an example of how the actual SAT ACT exam plays a part in what you're saying about actually receiving scholarships, because a student will not qualify for that full ride without it. Okay, good dialogue. Parents, I hope that you understand that these tests are pretty much still required. And as Ms. Bell stated earlier, we do recommend that you do not wait to start your students in taking it, especially our students that we already know that are college bound. It's very important to start researching the colleges to see what score does the child need. And then, as Ms. Bell stated, take the test to see where you are. And if you can start taking the SAT, ACT in ninth grade, really. It's not
Actually, we have some students that because I actually proctored the SAT and ACT, and we've had middle school kids come in and take the test. So you can really start as young as you want just to see where your child is academically when it comes to that test.
okay. And so then they can take it multiples, and most colleges take both scores. They take either the SAT or the ACT score, so for acceptance. So either test is beneficial to the child.
Right. And you also have some schools that will super score. So that say I took the SAT today and I made a really low score in the math, but a really high score in the reading. And so I take it tomorrow and it flips. They will take my two best scores. So that's another thing that you can ask the campuses if they do. You can ask the campuses if they super score so that you'll be able to use those two different scores.
Okay, awesome. All right, next slide.
Okay, so this is the high school senior year timeline. I agree and disagree with some of the timeline, and I'll just be honest. And you'll see a lot of these types of things on the internet to where, so whoever made this up, this is what works. This is what works for them. So you really have to see what's going to work for you. A lot of it, most of it is true, but where it says that you should get with the counselor and start making plans, that should actually be the end of your junior year. You should already know before you return back to school your fall semester of senior year, you should already know what schools you plan to apply for, because things have changed. And so if you went to college and you're telling your student, oh, you have time, everything doesn't really start working until the spring, that has changed and it's been different within the last few years. FAFSA starts October 1st. Early admissions start November 1st. So your students should already have applied to all of those things. Your child should have applied for colleges in September so that they can meet that early admissions date for November 1st. And then for FAFSA, your child should definitely go ahead and knock that out in that October 1st, because that's where all the money is. And so you'll notice that, money will start running out and students will start getting, less money come May, June, July. We've all had those students to where the light bulb really doesn't click until graduation hits. And so they're not getting what everyone else was getting, that extra scholarship money that was being offered that your child could have applied for and qualified for. They're not able to get that now because they were so last minute. So it's very important that you have your students start applying for colleges in September, October. That's ideal.
And I'm glad you pointed out one thing about the monies. What they fail to realize, your federal grant funds, which includes work study or even just the free grant funding, schools are limited. Although FAFSA will award you, if the campus runs out of that money is not there for your child. And so
Right.
now that becomes a financial obligation for your family. So a lot of times people look at it as, oh, well, the FAFSA said that they get such and such a grant, but depending on which campus that you choose and how late you apply, that grant money could already be gone, because there are other students. Remember, now you're competing with thousands of students. You have some students who are already on campus who know that they need to do it, so they immediately have their stuff ready to go to make sure that they secure the grant funds and whatnot that are there, because if they secure those grant funds, that's free money. They don't even have to worry about getting loans. That portion of their requirements, financial obligations for that year is taken care of. So yes.
Right.
All
And
right.
also just to let the parents know, get engaged. Please, please, please encourage your students to celebrate themselves. Once they start getting applications back and they've been accepted, let them know, hey, let your counselor know if they have a Go Center. Take that to the Go Center so that you guys can celebrate. That's what it's for. School is about having fun. This is your last year. Be proud of what you're doing. We so often get kids that they've been accepted places, but we don't even know that they're going anywhere. And so when we're celebrating other students, they're like, oh, well, I'm going here. And it's like, well, I didn't know. So just make sure that you're definitely getting your kids involved and telling them to allow us to celebrate them. It was something else that I wanted to make sure that I pointed out. Testing. We get this a lot. We get a lot of students that want to take the SAT and ACT over once they start getting those letters back saying that they weren't accepted. And so they try to take the test in late fall or early spring, which, yes, it's okay, but it's not ideal. So if you can go ahead and start either retaking those tests in the summer, or ACT and SAT both usually have their first test either August or September. So make sure that they're applying for those, registering for those tests so that they will have their test scores back within enough time to send to the schools, because that's what the schools need to be able to accept them. But with COVID, they've been exempt for now, but if you have other children in the future, that's how it will be. But I will definitely, if they do take the test, send that in, like we said, so that they can be offered more money.
And earlier when you and I spoke, we talked about the social media piece. Um,
Yes.
Students need to realize that now colleges are really, really, really looking at students' social media, because being ideal, we're in a society where a lot has taken place, and the mental aspect of a student's mindset comes into play as well. And so schools are looking at students' Facebook pages and who's representing them. So can you please speak to about how important it is to keep a clean social media profile?
Absolutely. That's, like I stated earlier, that's one of the most important things that they do look at, since technology is the way of life these days. A lot of, even police force, a lot of them, investigators, their jobs are so easy now because they go directly to a person's social media to see everything that they need to see. So when you have to think about it, when you're sending in your application, whether you're mailing it in or you're doing it online, all they're doing is printing out those papers, and they have papers in front of them. So they don't know who you are personally. All they know is who you are on paper. So your on paper person needs to be who you are on the internet as well. Because I'll give the same example. If you have Vanita and Toya, I have these two applications here. Well, Toya and Vanita are the exact same persons. You would think that they were twins. But I go to social media, and Toya, I'm going to switch roles. Toya is the turn up queen, and then Vanita is a saint. They're going to go with the saint because they feel like that saint has more value to their campus and will take school seriously. Whether it could be all a lie,
Yeah.
but what their perception of you is now different. So you want to make sure that you're giving everyone the right perception of you, because if not, that's how you'll lose on the opportunity over something so pointless. You have to be careful on judging different things. And if you go to own your own future, you'll see videos and different different videos of people that have talked themselves out of scholarships, talked themselves out of admissions, all based on their social media. So you really have to be careful of what you're posting.
Correct. All right, so we're getting close to time, and once again, parents, Ms. Bell will be joining us for a few more videos this coming summer session. Yes, and so please be looking to seeing more of those videos. But just a recap of what we talked about today. One, it's very important that students go ahead and take the SAT, ACT, and have a decent score to start applying for schools by the end of their junior year. When starting off their senior year, in order to start applying for schools, you must have a decent score already. Also ACT, also not ACT, but financial aid now is not in the spring. It now starts in October. And so schools are really pushing for students to complete their financial aid. Remember to send it to as many schools as possible, because you never know where your child is going. And they give you 10 free schools that you can send the financial aid to. So please send it to as many schools as possible, just to cover bases, because a lot of times you may start off at the beginning of the year going one place, but you wind up in another. Also, we discussed the difference between the TSI exam and the SAT and ACT exams. The TSI is for college placement only, and it is only given in the state of Texas. So parents, if you have any questions, feel free. Ms. Bell has placed her email here on the screen. She will be available to answer questions throughout the summer. Feel free to reach out. I also, my email address is lsloan@dallasisd.org. I am willing to answer questions for you as well. Ms. Bell, any shout outs before we go?
Shout out to my family. Yeah, and I honestly, my family and all the students that I have worked with that have taught me the loops, and if it wasn't for them being hard-headed and you know, some of the great ones, I wouldn't know what I know from having to get in there and get in the struggle with them. So just shout out to everyone that has been supportive of me, and I'm here for anyone that needs help. I have my number here. It's probably better to shoot me a text first, because I do ignore calls sometimes, but definitely shoot me a text or shoot me an email, and I'm here to help however I can. I sit down and kind of map out and give families plans on what the next steps are. So just let me know. I'm here to help. It takes a village, and I would love to bring the village back so that our kids are successful.
All right. With that being said, thank you, Ms. Bell. And we were going to close it out. Once again, please continue to watch our videos and other videos through our Tyro Omega Summer Academy. And we look forward to seeing you guys on a later date. Have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.